Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. It's Alyssa. Let's talk about some really good psychological thrillers that I just read that are also really about grief. I have two, so let's talk about them. Welcome back. We are sort of in a different filming location than usual because Jesus is playing video games and enjoying a day off, and I don't want to make him not enjoy himself. So if you hear any weird stuff, we're just going to hide in here. This is usually where he games, but he's gaming downstairs for some reason today. So we're just going to leave him alone, and I'm going to film here. We are going to do a quick sort of rambly review of two books that I recently read. They were both very short, and they're both psychological kind of thrillers that discuss grief. That is what is at the core of each story. I have been meaning to film more of these rambly reviews for you, but I never really want to put on makeup. And then I started realizing that like all the male booktubers I watch don't have to do anything. They just kind of come on camera, say whatever they want. They can have scraggly beards, they can be in a sweatshirt, they can wear whatever the hell they want, they can look like however the hell they want, and people watch them and nobody cares. Nobody cares.
Nobody cares.
F the patriarchy. I'm not putting on any makeup. This is the hair you're getting. We are going to discuss two books because we're not here for my looks. We're here for the books. That rhymed. So here are the two books that I want to discuss. So first is this book here, Sisters by Daisy Johnson. This book, first of all, has an absolutely stunning cover, like to die for cover. And it sounded really phenomenal when I was reading it in the store. I picked this up full price from Barnes& Noble. You know I rarely do that. It sounded dark and gothic and perfect. And it kind of is dark and gothic. You have sisters and a mother who are moving into this like country house, seaside house. The house is weird. There's weird things going on with the sister. The mother is very depressed and is like mostly not in the story in the beginning very much because she's sort of like locked in a room and the sisters are running around doing things in this house. And they're very strange sisters. The one sister who's like, they're like kind of like Irish twins, and the one sister who's a little older seems to have a lot of influence on the younger one. And that sister seems to be like kind of tempting the little sister into doing really bad things. They have this game called September Says. The sisters are named September and July. And they have this game called September Says, like Simon Says. In September, whatever September says, if she says September says, you have to do. And a lot of the things that September asks July to do are very self-harmy, very bad behavior. It's very alarming. And the story sort of meanders back and forth between a sort of murky meandering. Like you're not quite sure where you are the whole time. It's a little unsettling. And it meanders back and forth between the past, because something had happened with July at school, and the present, where they are today in this house. And you can tell that everybody in this house is dealing with something, and you don't quite get what that is until the very end. And at the very end, you start to find out why July is acting the way she is, why the mother is locking herself in the room, why there's all these issues within the family. Uh, the girls had also lost their father when he passed away, but he also seems like he was a bit of a deadbeat dad prior to that. And so he wasn't exactly like, it wasn't exactly like a huge loss for them, but more things happen and more things get revealed throughout the story. But you begin to see just how much both the mother and July are grieving. And it's so interesting, and it's so dark, and it's so psychological at its core that at first I was not sold on it because I thought it was just a little too weird. And then I started to really get into the book. Phenomenal. And then I picked up this other book. It happened to be on my Scribd, and it just happened to be a short audiobook. And it is also by a female Korean author and is translated. So I was like, well, this sounds like it'll be perfect for women in translation. The book is called The Whole, and it's by Hye-Young Pyun. Probably got that wrong. She is a younger Korean writer. In this book, it's a bit like Misery, but it's like if Misery met a book about grief. Our main character's name is Oki, and he was a successful man. He's a cartographer, teacher. He has a successful life. He's kind of middle aged, and it opens up. He's just come out of a coma. He was in a car accident which killed his wife, and he lived, but he will be paralyzed. He has nobody to take care of him. He's got no parents. They've passed. The only person he has is his mother-in-law. And his mother-in-law decides that she's going to be his caregiver. So he leaves the hospital. He regains a little bit of function, like he can move one hand and he can like blink his eyes and stuff, but really that's about all he can do. Otherwise, he's just beholden to his caregivers. And at first, he has somebody else that helps out. It's not just his mother-in-law living with him in his home that he and his wife lived in. And he has like a physical therapist. He has people that come in. But slowly the mother starts to go like she's just deranged. She just starts to lose it. And she's slowly losing her mind throughout this story. And he's just stuck. He's stuck. He can't move. He's at the will of everybody around him, right? He can't do anything for himself. He is dependent on absolutely everybody. And like, first, the nurse gets fired, and then the physical therapist gets fired. And he can't, that now he's like totally isolated and cut off from everybody. And the story moves between him in the present, dealing with all of his issues and his loneliness and questioning how deranged his mother-in-law is getting, and all the random stories the people who do come to see him are telling him about this giant hole she's digging in the yard. And it jumps back in time to what's going on with his wife. So he's always going back to what was going on in his marriage, what was going on with his wife, what was going on with his job. And you're getting more information about just what happened on the night of the car crash. And then you just keep seeing him just trying so hard to do something for himself, to protect himself, because he knows now that this mother in law, spoiler, this mother in law is out to get her son in law because she just believes that he is the reason that her daughter's dead, and she is slowly but surely descending into madness and will have her revenge. And yes, this is a psychological thriller that has like death and murder and all the fun twisty plot points of a thriller. But at the core, it's about a mother's grief. It's about a mother who is grieving for the loss of her daughter. It's a mother who is grieving for the loss of her own husband because he cheats on her. They're not together anymore. It's a mother who is grieving for the loss of her own mother. You know, her mother was Japanese and was forced to sort of abandon her Japaneseness when she married a Korean man because there's contention between Japan and Korea, which is a whole nother discussion that we're not going to get into in this point in time. This woman is going through so much stuff, and it's really interesting watching her descent into madness with her grief while he is kind of grieving his own loss of being able to walk, his independency, um, being intellectual prowess. Like he can't speak, he can't do anything. And it was so good. It's like 200 pages and it's phenomenal. And if you've been here for a while, you know that I don't really read a lot of thrillers anymore because I need them to mess me up and they're not messing me up anymore because I think I've read too many of them and they're becoming very formulaic. I will say that both with Sisters and The Hole, I could tell what the twists were going to be as I was reading them, and I kind of knew how they each were going to end. Maybe not in exact every little detail, but I got the overarching, like the way this plot was going. But I did not care because these books were exploring other things, not just thriller stuff and like mystery stuff and things like that. They were exploring really how death, loss, trauma, uh, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, how we grieve those things, how we deal with that, how we process things, or how we don't process things, how our psyche gets broken by certain things. And they were just so fascinating to read. It was like watching a car wreck in slow motion, and you just had to see, you had to know, like you knew that we were going to get here, you knew how this was all going to end, and you just couldn't, I couldn't turn away because I just needed to watch it happen. So if you are looking for a couple quick, dark, psychologically kind of thrillers that hit on some stuff like grief, I would say pick up The Sisters, pick up The Whole, and just have yourself a really nice kind of twisted, dark day. Don't even know if this is coherent, but whatever, don't care. I'm just here to share some books. I hope you enjoy the new setting. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and consider subscribing if you haven't already. Otherwise, I will see you guys in my next video, whatever it may be, because it's my channel and I can do whatever I want. Bye.
So just sit with me, talking to the night until the morning, building chemistry.